Hey guys, Adam here. Just a quick note before we get started. We had some technical issues this week that resulted in my microphone being way too loud. Thanks for putting up with it this week. If you do want to skip it, I would totally understand. It's mostly just Thomas waffling on about data anyway. So I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you again, hopefully on a proper mic next week.
Have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher, and people don't like that, but you should be welcoming a stronger economy.
And maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the worker.
The United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. We demystify the world of money and help you get a handle on the bigger picture. My name's Adam, and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real-life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How you going?
Good, thank you. Very loud, apparently, in your ears at least. Hopefully not coming through on the show. Thomas, massive show coming up. Just like doing laundry after St. Patrick's Day, a massive superannuation company has also been greenwashing. Things are getting rough for the Melbourne Golf Club after its builder encountered a hazard, leaving it out of bounds and the club having to rethink and mull over its options again. Or as they say in golf, they'll have to mull again. A little golf gag for you. If we were at a corporate, you're looking at me confused. If we were at a corporate golf comedy night right now, that would be standing ovation.
If you're one of the few listeners understanding Adam's jokes, just feel free to write in, CV@podcast. Something.
Great hosting, Thomas. Yeah. Excellent. Safety is in fashion again as tradies spend big on their new kicks, with Nike expected to launch the Nike Air Jordan Sparky 3 later this year. But first, inflation is dead. Long live interest rates. Thomas, we had some sweet DATs coming out this week. What did we learn?
The DATs. Yes.
I'm trying to make economics more accessible to the kids. Right. I'm just trying to get that going as some cool slang for data.
Yeah. Nice.
Saves a whole syllable. That. I think it's going to catch on.
That's going to catch on for sure. Yeah. No, we got two big pieces of data last week. We got GDP and the monthly inflation data, and both came in a bit floppy, actually. It's kind of how I think about it. They're like not just soft, but much softer than we're expecting. Yeah. A bit of like eyebrow raising kind of soft. Yeah. Oh, it's a bit soft.
Right.
Yeah. So, GDP in the December quarter came in at 0.5%.
I'm just thinking, that's the most expression we could possibly get out of economists. Well, it was enough we raised our eyebrows. It was really quite a scene.
Just everywhere you looked, eyebrows. The GDP data drew hollers from the crowd at the economics.
Some raised eyebrows and a few woohoos.
Yeah, no, 0.5% in the December quarter versus 0.8% that was expected. So that's a long way off.
Hang on, sorry, is this GDP?
GDP, yeah, still with GDP. Very soft, and on the back of household consumption growth cratering almost, so down to 0.3%. So basically households are looking pretty soft. They didn't pull much weight in the December quarter, and much less than we were expecting them to. Yeah, so they weren't spending much, but at the same time, they also dipped into their. They seem to be dipping into their savings rates. So savings rate fell to 4.5%. That was down from 7.1% in the September quarter. Yeah, last time it was that low was September 2017. So households are dipping into their savings to support consumption. But even while they're doing that, consumption is barely growing. It's barely ticking along.
I thought GDP was the measurement of what we were sort of putting out and selling. But is that?
Well, yeah.
But I guess it relies on people buying the things.
Yeah. That's just how we count how much stuff got made. So, yeah.
How much stuff got bought.
But it's all same. So you can there's an income measure. Yeah,
I can make something and not sell it.
Yeah, and that would go into inventories, not into consumption.
Ah, okay, right.
So yeah, there's different ways to cut up, to sort of sum together economic activity.
Right. Okay.
One's how much stuff gets bought, and that's sort of because it's in the marketplace and you count the transaction, then that tends to be the go-to measure.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So households, we thought they were holding up reasonably strong because the Black Friday sales and all of that was good. But,
and they're in November, right? Black Friday, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's in the December quarter, the 3 months up to December. But seems like, outside of that, things aren't looking so great.
So that is good for people looking for rate cuts. Will the RBA take that as a signal that we can kind of start slashing?
It's going to raise some eyebrows at the RBA. We're pretty sure about that. Yeah, just because it was much weaker than expected.
Could be some scowls even.
Yeah, the thing with the RBA is they were looking to sort of for the interest rates to bite, and kind of the puzzle up in the second half of last year was that interest rates were being raised quite aggressively, but consumers were still holding onto their spending. Like what we weren't seeing that starting to bite, but now it does seem like it's biting and biting quite quickly.
Right.
The sort of the partial indicators saying that the December quarter wasn't going to be so soft were just wrong, that consumption was much softer than expected.
So was that, you mentioned it was quick. Like why was it so quick? Like why didn't we see a more gradual kind of floppiness?
Yeah, I don't know why we're on the fast track to floppy-town. That's one of the kind of puzzles of the moment.
I did see it. It was in the RBA in minutes, actually, was the fast track to floppy-town. And
I'm stealing one
discussion.
of the discussion paper.
Open table, just round table discussion on fast track to floppy-town, I think was what was officially in the minutes.
Yeah. Had a robust discussion. Right. Well, one is I think consumer behaviour is slow to react. Yeah, but slow and then quick. But I think that seems to be, I mean, the interesting thing is like for most of last year, we seem to be about 2 quarters behind the world economy. So looking at sort of inflation and GDP data for the developed world, Australia was holding up much better than the rest of the world, and it was taking time to bite.
Right.
But now it seems like we've leapfrogged the rest of the world, and we're actually slowing much more quickly than the rest of the world. So we've gone from being behind the global cycle to being in front of it, which is...
It's not what you want to be good at, though.
No.
I'd rather we were keeping pace in the beginning, and then like now's not the time to be excelling at being bad.
Yeah, breaking away from the peloton.
Phil Lowe just at the front in the yellow leaders jersey. I got this. Follow me.
Yeah. So I mean, the interesting thing with this is that the RBA took a hawkish turn in February, hiked rates, and then came out in the minutes much more hawkish than people expected. Everyone ratcheted up their expectations of where the terminal rates were going to be, like where we're going to end this rate hike cycle. Since they did that, everything has come in much softer than expected. So right. GDP, as we're saying, was softer. Wages last week were much softer than expected. Employment was a touch softer. The monthly CPI, I didn't touch on it, but there was 7.4% in January compared to 8.1% expected. So that's quite a way softer than markets were expecting as well. And so everything that you'd be looking for to justify that hawkish turn that the RBA did in February has disappointed. And has just sort of come in a bit floppy. So, like, I really think, like, particularly with the wages data coming in much softer, as we talked about last week, the case for sort of more rapid or even like any more rate hikes, I think, kind of isn't there. Like, if it would be me, I'd be pausing. I think they've painted themselves into the corner, and they need to raise rates. Well, this will come out yesterday by the time this podcast hits the ears. But yeah, so I think they'll raise, this month, but then. And they'll, possibly raise rates next month because they've set that expectation. But then after that, like, I just don't think there's any case there. I think it's definitely time for a pause.
Is there? Surely the RBA doesn't have like a pride issue, does it? Like they're not like, we can't backtrack on. We said we're going to do this, and we can't just change course, because I guess they also need confidence as well, which they can't be seen to be shooting from the hip, right? They can't just be like, it's data is good. I mean, data's floppy, quick. Like they can't be, jumping at shadows, as it were. So
they talk about credibility in central bank speak. So you got to be credible, and the reason you got to be credible is that if you anchor expectations, if everyone believes you and believes that you're going to hit your inflation target, then the economy just naturally gravitates to that target because that's what everyone's expecting because everyone believes you. If your credibility goes out the goes out the window, then people don't know what's going to happen, and you get just opens the way for more unpredictability in inflation outcomes. So that's why you do need to sort of be a bit predictable and boring as much as you can.
Well, you got to stay credible. Any alternative would be to be incredible, and I think that's going to happen. The opposite of credible, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's like, you've got an incredibility issue.
All right, Thomas, ASIC, Australian Securities and Investment Commission, is taking a super fund to court. What's going on there?
Yeah, this is a first. So the corporate watchdog is accusing retail super giant Mercer of greenwashing, effectively, of misleading members about the sustainability of its investments. Yeah, so this is a first. We haven't ever seen anything like this from ASIC, and I mean ESG, as a sort of investment screen is still relatively new, but this is
so
the first.
A screen is just like you have a list of companies and then you say, well, we want to have sustainable ones, so these ones, they don't meet the criteria. But the criteria is set by who? By the super fund?
By the super fund, yeah,
right.
yeah.
So it doesn't fail. They set their own rules and then broke their own rules. Is that right?
Well, I mean, I think this will be a really interesting one to see how it plays out, because how you define sustainable is sort of a subjective question. It's a bit like, can you label all cereals healthy because they've got oats, regardless of how much sugar they've got in them? Healthy is kind of a subjective term.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like it's locked in. And so I think this will be an interesting test, because they had a fund called the Sustainable Plus Fund, which they marketed as suitable for members who are deeply invested to sustainability.
Deeply. They're really selling it.
You'd have to look at the product disclosure statement to see what that means. But ASIC is accusing them of claiming that it excluded companies that were involved in carbon-intensive fossil fuels.
Right.
But then found out they were invested in 15 fossil fuel companies, including AGO Energy, BHP, Glencore, and Whitehaven Coal.
Haven't you seen the ads for BHP? You can't go green without digging up the earth and providing the copper to go green. So,
I mean, I think you could argue the toss on BHP. Whitehaven Coal, probably a little harder to argue that it's not a fossil fuel company. It's kind of in the name. So but that's right. Like you could argue the toss with BHP. It's like, well. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they play out and how they prosecute the case. So would a reasonable person expect BHP to be in there? Would they expect Whitehaven Coal to be in there? Given what their marketing materials were, and I'm not sure what they were. I mean, the other one they've got is alcohol and gambling. ASIC saying they told members the fund excluded alcohol producers and gambling outfits, but then invested in 34 companies across those sectors, including Crown Resorts, Tabcorp. Bit hard to argue Tabcorp's not involved in gambling. Budweiser, Carlsberg, and Heineken.
Maybe they were. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. Maybe they were trying to invest in the zero alcohol product arm of Heineken, Carlsberg, and Budweiser. And they were saying, well, these companies are responsible for producing zero alcohol beers, therefore they're in.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know how you wrangle Tabcorp in there.
Tabcorp just wanted exposure to junior footy sponsorship.
I mean, Crown Resorts is in there, and you could argue Crown's terrible at gambling. Haven't they got massive fines coming their way?
Yeah, they took some big bets that didn't play out at all.
So, are they in gambling or not? I don't know. Because ESG is a big focus for a lot of companies, not just for super funds. But is this good or bad for the future of ESG?
I mean, I think it is good. I mean, I think if a fund is selling itself as ESG specific, there needs to be some accountability. You can't just the same way you can't just slap healthy on a cereal without some reasonable claim. There needs to, if you're claiming to be a sustainable fund, you need to be walking the walk to somehow. Otherwise people are sort of misled.
There are independent certifications now for ESG, for businesses at least. Like businesses can be, I think it's B Corp certified. There's certifications that say, yes, you've done whatever the requirements are to be considered for, as an ESG or as a responsible company or whatever it is. But I don't know whether that applies to super funds or to any company that's investing.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. But again, there's no definitive definition of, like, if you had to sort of pull together all the sustainable companies on the ASX, everyone, like, I don't think anyone would come up with the same list. There's lots of different, like, also I could imagine, like with the gambling and alcohol, like that's, they're things that people often want to screen from, but they're not, like, you're not screening them because they're not sustainable. You're not screening because Tabcorp has a high carbon footprint. But the fund was called the Sustainable Plus Fund. Like, to me, it's kind of reasonable that I would kind of expect Tabcorp to be there. I wouldn't necessarily expect Tabcorp to be screened just on a sustainability metric. Do you know what I mean? So, like, it depends on how you're selling the fund.
What is ESG? What's ESG? Environmental sustainability and what's the G? Governance?
Governance. Governance.
So I guess, to that measure, Tabcorp probably makes it in the list. But didn't they explicitly say we won't get involved in gambling or alcohol as part of this? Yeah,
they did say that. That's what ASIC is alleging, that they marketed it as having that gambling screen. So, right. And then they just seems like the allegation is they marketed it that way, but then just didn't apply the screen.
Right. Maybe it was just that they had that their algorithm was just, you had to not do one of these things. So they asked Tabcorp, are you sustainable and do you produce alcohol? And Tabcorp went, nah, we don't do either of those. They're like, brilliant, you're in.
Yeah.
They went to Heineken and said, are you guys running like corporate gambling operations? And they went, definitely not. We are definitely not doing that. They were brilliant. You're in too. This is going well.
Right, yeah.
They went to Crown. You guys doing gambling or alcohol? Well, we used to. All right, why don't we pause there or grab a break, hear from this week's sponsors, and be back with more Comedian versus Economist right after this. Welcome back. You're on Comedian versus Economist. You can send us an email if you like, cve@equitymates.com. We would love to hear from you. Stephen did just that. He said he's been loving the show since the very first podcast. However, I'm usually too lazy to write into these things. Well, good on you, Stephen. Good job. He said, but since you two are my only source of financial news these days, that's a bit risky, Stephen, to be honest, I have to ask, can you make sense of the superannuation tax debacle going on at the moment? Do you think it's a good idea? And if not, can you think of an alternative? Thomas, what's going on with superannuation tax? Everyone's outraged, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a non-issue in my mind. Like, you get a concessional tax on your super. And the idea is that you give people that concessional tax rate to encourage super, so people, make the choices today to provide for their future, and then that takes the burden off the government. And so that's why you're trying to incentivize that, and that's awesome. And yeah, I like that. But at the moment, there's no cap on how much you can put in and get that concessional tax rate. Labor's proposal is like there should be a cap. and it's $3 million. So once your super, accumulates to $3 million, you lose access to that concessional. Well, the super concessional tax rate is like 15%. It goes up to 30%, which still isn't that much. So like one is so obvious. Like, once your balance is $3 million, we as the government, as the Australian community, don't need to be incentivizing you to put more money into super. If you're putting more money,
you're in pretty good shape. If you're looking at your super balance at the moment, and it's got a 3 followed by 6 digits, I reckon you're feeling pretty confident about your future position.
Yeah. So we just don't need to incentivize those people to contribute more. Like there just isn't an argument for it. And so like it just seems so like just blindingly obvious that one, you just have a cap. 2, a 3 million cap is pretty generous. Like it's pretty high. And like I think it applies to 0.5% of superannuation holders. So it's really small.
I think 80,000 people are in the category at the moment.
Yeah, right.
Out of however many in Australia.
Yeah. I know a lot of them are listening to us, but so I feel like it's...
I'm not sure. It depends on which house they're in at the moment.
Like I despair at the way that this somehow gets beaten up into an issue that has it like what? Like there's no argument against it. I haven't even seen anyone make an argument against it other than sort of vague hand waving about Labor wanting to tax super, or it's just such a beat up. It's such a nothing story.
Well, one problem is it's not indexed, so it's a fixed $3 million figure, which means by like as early as 2197, there could be a large chunk of people who are affected by the $3 million cutoff point. All right, Thomas, tell me what's happening at the Royal Melbourne Golf Club.
They're in a difficult spot. They've one of their builders. Well, they've got a builder, and the builder's gone bust. They're in the process of building a $10 million underground car park. Yeah, but the firm that they contracted that to, Cobble Projects, went into administration last week.
Going to have to play around that, though. It's going to be all sorts of trouble. Members are,
Well, they just fill the hole with sand and just call it a trap.
Yeah, make it a statement piece. World's biggest bunker.
Yeah.
Come to Melbourne. Come to Royal Melbourne and see the world's biggest bunker.
I didn't know this, but Royal Melbourne is home to Australia's top-ranked golf course, 7th in the world, apparently.
Yeah, right.
Fast, undulating greens, apparently. I don't know what that means.
Apparently it's good.
Apparently golfers like it. Yeah, it's got a waiting list that's 14 years long.
14 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
If you wait
for all our millennial listeners, put your name down now.
Put your name down now.
You should get a membership by the time you give a toss about golf. Just some forward planning. You might think golf's boring now, but you give it 14 years, you'll come running to us then.
Yeah. So apparently the thing that's kind of amusing in this is that it's in the Melbourne Bayside suburb of Blackrock, which is in Melbourne's Sandbelt. Apparently, the Sandbelt is really good for golf courses. There's a bunch of good golf courses, Huntingdale, Commonwealth and Cheltenham.
Oh, I've heard of Huntingdale.
Yeah, but apparently that sand is really hard to build underground car parks in.
Ah.
Because if you can imagine being in a sandpit trying to build an underground tunnel thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience to draw on. I can only think to sitting on the beach with my kids and, when you try and make a tunnel.
Yeah, right.
You dig it out and there's always sand that falls in as you're digging it out. That I understand then.
That's exactly the trouble that they ran into. And in the end just went bust. Can't do it. It just jumps out at me because there's a lot of builders going bust right now. So ASIC data's saying that there's 1,236 construction companies have gone into liquidation, receivership or administration so far this financial year. So in just over 6 months, got 1,200 construction companies have gone bust.
Because this is one that I think we get mixed messages on. Like you hear, like you can't get, we're going to talk about RSEA and the boot company. You can't get tradies for love nor money. There's just tons of work out there and it seems like there's huge demand for building. But yet at the same time, I also hear that there's construction companies are going bust. So what is it?
I think a lot of it is costs in the supply chain, particularly around construction materials, that they exploded. And if the builders weren't, not hedged isn't the word, but if they were working to fixed price contracts and they take sort of 18 months, 2 years to play out, like these guys would have, they would have signed that years ago with the car park, and then the costs blow out. They would have had some contingency there, but we've had such a rapid escalation in construction costs that they just end up going, the costs overrun the margins and they go bankrupt. Yeah. And so those delays are meaning that projects are taking much longer to bring online. So you can see the pipeline of work in progress. There's data on that. Construction commenced but not completed. That's blown out. Like that's at record highs. Partly that's because we got a huge surge in construction with home builder grants and all of that out of COVID. But also then it's just projects are taking much longer to come through. So construction workers are well placed for the moment because there's just a lot of work for the stuff that's in the pipeline, even though the firms themselves might be going bust. And you look at this, this builder, Cobal's gone bust, but Royal Melbourne still wants to build the thing, so the project doesn't die, even though the company dies, the project doesn't. So someone else will get the work. So So for the moment, in terms of like impact on the labour market and tradies, they're still well placed. There's still a high demand for tradies.
So they might end up just going to work for someone else to deliver the same project, but just under someone else who's renegotiated the cost of doing it.
Yeah, I expect so. It'd be something like that, yeah.
I think the other problem that they had was that all of the construction workers, when they arrived at Royal Melbourne, they had nowhere to park their cars. And they said, sorry, you have to be a member if you want to park there. And then they're like, all right, well, where do I sign for the membership? And they said, sorry, it's a 14-year waiting list. And it just spiraled out of control from there. The tradies, the construction workers didn't have anywhere to park. They were there to build the car park, they were able to do it, and it became this big catch-22.
But and the other interesting thing with this is that with the construction companies going bust, new home finance commitments have also collapsed. They're the lowest level since 2012. So new homes aren't getting ordered just because interest rates are rising, so people are holding off. Yeah, so I think we're looking at a bit of a construction crunch, particularly in residential housing in late 23, 24, which, given that we've got a chronic undersupply of housing right now, particularly as immigration rebounds in an epic way, that undersupply of housing is going to get worse because we need that new stock to come online. Sorry, were you looking for some good news in that?
I was looking for a cheery end to the break. We could have a little jovial moment, as we like to do, as a way to sort of finish the break. But no, you really brought it down.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. But golf pants.
What's up with golf pants? Right, Thomas, finally on the show, you've got another Aussie battler story for us. Who is it this time?
Yeah, this is almost becoming a regular segment now, isn't it? But no, we've got RSEA Safety Gear.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're an Aussie company doing safety gear, tradie stuff, but particularly boots, work boots. Oh. Work boots make up 60% of their sales.
60% of their sales in boots alone?
Boots alone, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, the rest is protective equipment, safety glasses, gloves, earmuffs and knee pads.
Right.
Yeah, but they're crushing it at the moment. They posted results, record annual sales of 350 million from its 80 stores, double-digit sales growth each of the past 2 years. Calendar 2022 was a record year. Yeah, crushing it. And yeah, they've got 80 stores. They're going to open another 12 in the next 12 months.
So why, I guess the obvious question, why are their sales going so well?
So the Chief Operating Officer, Terry Spirides, saying that our customers haven't experienced a drop-off in work yet. You can't get a tradie, and that's the litmus test. Right. So as we're sort of saying, construction companies might be going bust, but tradies doing well, high demand, got lots of money.
And they're buying boots.
Buying boots. Well, the thing I find really interesting in this story is tradies are buying up more fashionable boots and clothing. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not just about safety, it's about fashion. To convey that they were financially successful and proud of it. They want the world to know they're doing well.
Well, so I guess it stands to reason. I mean, you never think of, I guess, tradies as trying to look fashionable on the job site, but I suppose everyone wants to look good. You never know who's walking past the job site at any one time. Be caught wearing some daggy old, shoes with holes in them or something. Those fresh kicks.
Yeah, I think there's even sort of an emerging market for sort of like, I saw some designer high vis shirts the other day, came up on my Facebook feed got an ad for designer high vis. Yeah. So
tough. It's pretty tough to work in that space, isn't it? Like, you imagine like someone like a fashion label's come to you and gone, all right, I want you to come up with a brand new design for a shirt that people are going to love. And they're like, okay, cool. Any minimum requirements? Yes. It has to be reflective high vis. Like, oh, what? That's kind of tricky to work with. Well, it's got to look good at a nightclub, but also on a job site.
Interesting thing with this is like, I think like marketing's all over this now, but this is actually an idea that came out of economics. Yeah, no, this is us.
Try and claim this. This is tradie business, Thomas. This has nothing to do with economists.
No. The idea that you're using your consumption not for the utility you derive out of the consumption directly, but for what that consumption says about you. And so, they're not buying boots because of the qualities of the boots. They're buying the boots because they want the world to know that they're doing well.
Right.
So, yeah. So this is what in economics this is called conspicuous consumption.
Is this why brands exist on shirts and things? Like, I've always been amazed at the desire, and I've done it, don't get me wrong, I've worn brand name shirts. But I've always been a bit surprised at our willingness as people to be like, I'm going to wear a shirt that's got like Tommy Hilfiger written on it. Because effectively you're just kind of a walking advertisement for Tommy Hilfiger. Like really they should be paying you to wear their shirts.
Yeah.
But instead we pay ridiculous prices so that we can wear Tommy Hilfiger or whatever it is. I'm so out of touch. Shirts. It just seems a bit ridiculous when you stop and think about it.
Oh, no, totally. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like, because the quality of the products between a cheap and an expensive shirt isn't that obvious when you first look at it, you need a way to signal to people that you've just paid $200 for a shirt.
Yeah, right.
So you want that little label on it because then you go, yeah.
It's pretty niche, though, in the building industry. Like I'd imagine... Like, you're not going to be on a job site and, like, lady walks past, ooh, are they steel blue? Like, I feel like the only other people who are going to know what you're rocking on your shoes is because, like, there's a whole different brand kind of thing going on within.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I don't even know the brands. Like Hard Yakka, is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Ruggers. I don't think Ruggers were ever came out shorts. Anyway.
But the conspicuous consumption doesn't just apply to people of the opposite sex and trying to pick up.
Right.
Like, you might be going for work. It might be a legitimate business reason for it. You're going for a project. You've just heard that Royal Melbourne's builder's gone bust, so you want to apply for that job. You want to project you need to project that you're a good tradie, so you're going to rock up in your tradie gear. But you also want to project that you're doing very well as a tradie, so you're rocking up in your $200,000 SUV and your designer work boots and going like, yeah, I'm the goods.
I don't want that. I want my tradie to rock up in a beat up old Holden Ute because that says to me that he's not charging his customers too much. Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm going to get stung. If my tradie rocks up with a chauffeur, he goes and parks the car around the side, tradie comes to the door wearing his designer high-vis, then I feel like maybe I'm about to get stung and pay too much for a new PowerPoint.
You say that, but like, look at real estate agents or, driving the Beamers and you think like, wow, I'm going to pay that guy a lot of commissions for not doing all that much. But they need to project success and financial success. So,
yeah, I don't know. I feel exactly the same way about real estate agents.
Yeah.
And mortgage brokers too, for that matter.
Anyone else you want to have a dig at?
I love tradies.
Anyway, just to say that this was Thorstein Veblen was a Norwegian-born American economist. Wrote a book called Theory of the Leisure Class in 1899, and came up with this idea that saying a lot of consumption is about conspicuous consumption and conspicuous leisure. It's not about what you get out of it; it's what it says. His great example was cricket, saying it as conspicuous leisure. So, if you're working class, there is absolutely no way you can take 5 days off to play a game. Just tool around eating cucumber sandwiches, playing a really slow game. You also probably don't own white clothes. So cricket was a way to signify wealth. I can take 5 days off and play cricket because I'm that wealthy.
Yeah, right.
So it's conspicuous leisure.
That's interesting. You know what's interesting about that too is that Dennis Lilly was the great Australian fast bowler, was also used to do ads spruiking steel blue boots.
There you go.
So there you go. A nice little full circle there with old DK coming back with from our cricketing story. I don't know what fast bowlers have to do with steel blue boots, but they do always blow out the toe on their cricket boots. So
yes,
maybe some steel caps would be perfect for Pat Cummins and the crew. Modern day cricketer could be just at the same time that they're taking wickets for Australia, they could be displaying their conspicuous wealth. All right, I reckon that does us for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'd love it if you rated and reviewed the show wherever you listen to this podcast. But that is all for us for this week. We'll talk to you again next week. It's bye for now.
You have been listening to an Equity Mates Media production. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes. Any advice is general advice only and has not taken into account your personal financial circumstances, needs, or objectives. Before acting on general advice, you should consider if it is relevant to your needs and read the relevant product disclosure statement. And if you're unsure, please speak to a financial professional. The hosts of this podcast and their guests may have positions in the companies mentioned. Equity Mates Media operates under an Australian Financial Services Licence 540697.